Welcome back to the second of Student Academic Success Services series of videos on improving your writing in the disciplines as a graduate student. Yesterday we were talking about using style guides like Chicago, MLA or APA to improve your writing, but today we're going to talk about a tool that is a little bit more specific as you begin to think about targeting certain avenues for publishing or maybe future career prospects. And that is using journal style guides. The way to do this is to think of a major journal in your field or anywhere you might potentially publish in the future. You can do this right now even if you're just starting out as a master's student to learn more about writing in your field. Think of a journal, anywhere you might want to publish, go to their website and what you'll find should be a page called Author Instructions, Submission Guidelines or something synonymous. And usually that page will tell you which style guide they use in general, that MLA guide or Chicago guide and so on that we were talking about yesterday. But frequently, the leading journals will also give some more specific writing requirements about formatting and style as well. Let me show you an example here. So I looked up the Canadian Journal of Occupational Therapy, which is a leading journal in the rehab sciences. Here you can see their submission guidelines, and if we scroll down a little bit, we're going to find all sorts of information about how to actually submit articles, but also, a PDF document with instructions for authors. And some of this is pretty broad stuff. You can see this is 8 pages long, so there's a lot of information in here. Some of this isn't really about writing, it's just about practical information. But then we get into some really specific detail that a submission must have an abstract using headings, using keywords. If we scroll down a bit further, these must be different from the title. The manuscript has to contain a separate introductory paragraph outlining the rationale and purpose of the paper. This is telling us that when we're writing for a supervisor in rehab sciences or a related field, this is the way that we should format our document. We can see here that the article has an average length, which is a useful guide for how much detail we might want to go into. And it starts to get into some more specific terminology and specific things to do with rehab therapy. Use of acronyms and abbreviations that might be common in the profession, but the editors of the journal don't want to see in writing. So once again, this is going to enable you to start developing a list that you can focus on and use as a checklist for when you're planning and editing your work. Let me show you another example from Nature, which of course most of you will have heard of because it's one of the leading science journals. Now Nature on their website has a really great formatting guide. It looks relatively similar, maybe a little bit more swished than the occupational therapy guide, but look here. It tells you articles start with a fully referenced summary paragraph, ideally of no more than 200 words. The summary paragraph should be structured as follows, so it's telling you line by line exactly how to format your writing, and it even has this great example that breaks it down and describes how this introductory paragraph should look. Imagine if for your graduate coursework or drafts you sent to your professor that you were to produce an introductory paragraph that looked just like that. They'd probably be really pleased. It tells you how many references articles in Nature typically have. It tells you about using subheadings to improve navigation. So if Nature is an avenue that you might want to publish in, this is something that you would want to do. It tells you a little bit more about the style of language. Write clearly and simply. Avoid technical jargon as much as possible. Avoid abbreviations. It tells you that the background, rationale and main conclusions of the study should be clearly explained. Title abstracts in particular should be readily intelligible to any scientist, to maybe someone just outside of your discipline. What this is going to enable you to do is to go away and produce a checklist. And I produce this just quickly off of that readability paragraph in the Nature guidelines, that when I'm planning my work, I can go back and look at this and say, do I have an introductory summary paragraph? Do I think my work is accessible to other disciplines? Maybe if I'm a chemist, I could ask a friend who is in physics to quickly skim through my work and say, does this broadly make sense or not? Do I think this is accessible for EAL readers? I might want to again ask someone who's not a native English speaker or come and work with Student Academic Success Services and ask our staff the question, is this going to work for an EAL reader? Did I avoid technical jargon? Where I decide that technical jargon is really necessary, so my physicist friend has told me that a particular word is too obscure for them to understand, Have I explained what that means before diving into the body of the work and losing the reader because I've used too much complex information? Thank you so much for listening to this second video in a series. In the third video, we're going to look at a really tricky and difficult question that many graduate students face, and that is, what if there are no formal guidelines? What if I look in journals and those style guidelines just aren't that helpful? What if I've exhausted every resource that I think is out there and I still need some extra help?